Hello and welcome to Reimagine 2021. This is our 8th conference and a monthly series of events bringing you nothing but the best projects, bright minds, and leaders in the space. We've been fortunate enough to invite many talented individuals and teams to come speak with us, providing updates, insights, and all the above that's happening in crypto. This panel is brought to you by Dodo, on-chain liquidity provider for everyone. Please visit them at dodox.io. So appreciative of them supporting the conference. And this panel here, and we got an exciting panel today. I'll be your host today, Adam from the MouseBelt team, joined by my 4 amazing guests. Let's go ahead and get some introductions here. We'll start with you, Michael. How you doing today, man? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing very well, Adam. Thanks for having me. So my name is Michael Gord. I am the managing director of the XTB Foundation, which is focused on accelerating the growth of the digital biz blockchain. The blockchain, I think, is most likely to push mainstream adoption with an ecosystem of multinational organizations and celebrities that we're about to announce the participation of. With NFTs, I'm also the founder of the Metaverse Group, which is a holdco for Metaverse land assets primarily, which we intend to securitize as the first Metaverse REIT in the world. As well as the Rare Store, which is a marketplace for iconic digital assets. We have a pipeline of A-list entertainers looking to help with entering both the NFT as well as the Metaverse world. And then I'm the CEO of the GDA Group, which is an ecosystem focused across the blockchain and digital asset capital market.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. He's calling in from Egypt, 3 a.m. Super committed to this panel. We thank you for participating. Zach, how you doing, man? A quick little introduction, and thanks for taking the time out of your day too to join us.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So I'm Zach. I work as the head of business development at Xooa. I've been there for about 2 years, and that's been largely acting as more the public face of the company. Conferences, meetups, other events, that type of thing, spouting the blockchain gospel as well as the platform. But of course, all that slowed down recently and has been transitioned rapidly online is what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here right now. But I mean, the reason our company came about was, blockchain in itself is a bit sort of unwieldy and tough to use with a difficult UI. And our entire focus became being a reliable platform that's easy to use for building out use cases. So that sort of end application layer. And we've been in the NFT space since 2018 as a use case focused platform that abstracted away the complexities of blockchain so that anyone could take advantage of it, no matter what their expertise level was, even if they didn't have any. And that's included low code features and other abstractions, stuff like that. And with the recent NFT boom in the marketplace space, we've actually discovered that 95% of the tools that we built over these past 4 years were directly applicable. And so we have a service now that we're launching in about a week or two, which is just a public facing service for creators and collectors. And then we're also enabling organizations to build their own NFT marketplaces with no minting fees and minimal transaction fees. So a lot of exciting stuff happening now as well. It's on the horizon for us.
Nice. Glad to have you. Bradley, how you doing, man? You've been a regular here at Reimagine. Thanks for coming back for the panel. How you doing? Little quick introduction.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be back. Sure. So I'm co-founder of Unstoppable Domains. We build domain names on blockchains, and domain names are NFTs. So they're stored inside of your crypto wallet, just like a cryptocurrency would be. And it's very different than a traditional domain, which is stored by GoDaddy, who can take it away from you or get hacked or get tricked into transferring it to someone else. So yeah, NFTs are just this really wide category, and there's a lot of really different use cases. So a lot of people are talking about art and collectibles and things like that. And I guess the way your domain name might fit in is you could show a gallery of what you own, like a verified gallery of your collection. That's a website template we have. Oh, we lost you, Adam.
Yeah.
How you doing, Ethan? The man of the hour here, coming from the Dodo team, putting on the panel. You guys have been very active, and we'll get into that shortly. But give a quick little intro of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So my name is Ethan. I'm a DeFi native and a product manager for Dodo NFT. And I've been pretty involved in the Dodo NFT project, from things like conceptualization to project execution to strategic marketing. And yeah, I'm just having a very keen interest in the synergy between NFTs and DeFi in general. Yes. So as I said before, I represent Dodo. So Dodo is a decentralized exchange platform powered by our proactive market maker algorithm, which is the brand new market making model that features high capital efficiency and very flexible use cases. Dodo offers a wide variety of value generating products such as smart trade trading and aggregation, crowd polling, mining trading, trade mining, and liquidity mining, etc. And the Dodo platform also features its own native governance token, Dodo token, which provides a wide selection of utility for its holders. We're also ready to launch the Dodo NFT platform, which features the fractionalization of NFTs and very exciting stuff. And I can't wait to share with you guys.
Awesome. Well, again, we thank Dodo for sponsoring this event, being helping us present this to kind of our international audience, global viewers. Very fortunate there. Our objectives here at Reimagine 2021 really are and our goals are pretty simple. It's just increasing adoption, use cases, real world applications, and showing that here, through these interviews. So ultimately, we seek to educate our audience, on blockchain by helping them understand the impact. And so, you guys are kind of concluding the event here, and let's kind of get right into it. Ethan, we'll start with you. Why have NFTs blown up now? We've talked to a lot of projects. You guys have been in this space. Everybody's been working on something for a period of time, right? But all of a sudden, in the last few months, things have really picked up. And I would say it's surpassed DeFi, and we'll probably touch on NFTs colliding with DeFi at the end, but it's surpassed DeFi in terms of market reach, right? There's more people learning about it as opposed to DeFi in this bubble, and that's kind of taking some time. But why have NFTs blown up, the last few months?
I think it's there's multiple factors to it. It's really hard to explain in a very simple manner. But I think overall NFT is still in its infancy, but the space as its whole has already made significant headway in terms of establishing awareness among the general population. I think it's being very quickly picked up by mainstream entertainment and medias, and then it's become a very trending thing. For example, NBA Top Shot. It is basically a video NFT that features NBA highlight plays. So basically, NBA fans are able to purchase these highlight moments as NFTs, and they're able to purchase and trade them. And the price of each of these highlight NFTs varies, depends on the highlight itself and the popularity of player who made those highlights. So I think this it not only provides an extra layers for the NBA fans to enjoy the game, but also provide a very exciting opportunity for the fans to be involved in the trading and the collecting experience. So the existence of NBA Top Shots shows that the mainstream entertainment and the media has already become aware of NFTs and are legitimizing it by actively incorporating into their marketing strategy. And I think this is a very obvious sign and for this trend. And I think this trend is going to become more and more prevalent in the future. And that's my take.
Awesome. Lost you again, Adam.
I'll go ahead and take over here on the moderation. Zach, how what are your thoughts on kind of this NFT boom, right? You guys have been building this infrastructure for quite some time. You know, has a tech caught up, and Ethan kind of touched on it too. The space has matured a little bit, and you know, there's some things that we can start building and leveraging. So yeah, why have NFTs, you know, gotten popular in the last few months?
I mean, yeah, it's sort of like you said, the technology has started to catch up. We had 2017 when the ERC 721 standard was created by, I believe it was CryptoPunks at the time. And then everything sort of slowed down. 4 years for the technology to catch up, basically, and for real business use cases to come out. We hit 2021 and suddenly you have Elon Musk, NBA Top Shot, Christie's Auction House, all of these massive companies and names starting to dive into the space, seeing the advantages of it. And honestly, what it really is right now we're in a cultural moment. That's pretty much what it all comes down to. You have massive numbers, you know, Beeple's $69 million auction, in which you just, I mean, that's just a number that you can sort of stand in awe of. And the names coming in, NBA Top Shot, and both of those are sort of working together to create this moment of absolute insanity. Yes, I do believe, I think this is a bubble right now. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a big focus on collectors right now trying to turn a profit, but I don't think we're just at the beginning. There's only around 5% of the US population right now that really understands what NFTs are, to even a little degree, like a small degree. And I believe it's something like 19% have heard the word before and no one else has heard it. And we also have poor, difficult UI and UX, which is all around. It's a difficult technology to use. And yet still all of this is happening. Once that changes, once everyone can start, instead of looking in and seeing these things, but actually participating in everything, this is going to take off way more than we could even, imagine at this point.
Great. I'll go to you, Bradley, and then you last, Michael. Bradley, like in terms of this NFT boom, you might have a different perspective because what you guys are offering, right? It's not so much kind of a digital art or a physical item. You guys are providing some other service. So why do you think it's blown up? And you might have different data and insights from Unstoppable Domains.
Well, I think like everything, it takes several years to become an overnight success. So it's just been building for years. There's been a conference, NFT NYC, that's been like a meetup for NFT projects for several years. And in 2019, that place was packed. There were hundreds of people, hundreds of companies building all kinds of different projects, all kinds of different ideas. So I think it's been growing and building for a while. Numbers have been growing and going up for a while. They were going up in 2020 when the oxygen in the market was going towards the DeFi narrative. But that's just the way it goes in the public. Like NFT narrative will not be the number one narrative forever either. It's just now it's the number one narrative because it's new and it's being introduced. It's got a lot of different categories. Like it's got collectibles, it's got art, it's got domains, it's got some digital land, gaming things. It's got all kinds of these different categories. It's got tickets, it's got content. So it's going to go in a lot of different directions, and eventually those categories are going to get broken out. So people are going to talk about them more in terms of like digital art versus digital domains versus digital collectibles or whatever. They're not going to lump it like this most likely because it's not quite so much a category. But I think one of the reasons why art and collectibles have really gone mainstream is because they have the social component, the one-to-many. Like you have something to look at, so I can own it and I can show it to 20 people, and those 20 people get some benefit. Whereas if I'm doing DeFi and I'm making a bunch of money, I can tell 20 friends, but those friends might not get any enjoyment out of the fact that I made a bunch of money. Whereas they might get enjoyment out of looking at my art. So it has sort of a different viral loop around it.
Nice. And Michael, you've been in the space for quite some time. You have your hands in a lot of cookie jars. What are you seeing on kind of this boom?
Just first off, I wonder if you guys can hear the very, very loud praying in the background. No? Okay. You know how in Muslim countries, I guess at 3 a.m, there's Ramadan praying chants. I was wondering whether that could be heard on the phone also.
You're good.
So that's good. As far as mainstream adoption, or as far as adoption in general, I think that the reason why NFTs is reaching more ears and more eyeballs is pretty simply that DeFi is mainly being adopted by tech nerds, which, don't get me wrong, I'm into yield farming, but yield farming in general does not sound mainstream or mass market. DeFi also is challenging the banks, so it's in the banks' best interest for it to be not picked up by the mass market as quickly. And fungible tokens are very risky for A-list celebrities, the most famous people in the world, to be publicly advocating for, because they're entertainers. They're not, they're not in the business of challenging the US dollar for, and challenging the banks for, they're not in the business of challenging the US dollar and the banks. So they make movies, they make music. It's difficult for an entertainer of A-list scale to be publicly advocating for something so controversial, although I'm excited about it. For NFTs, on the other hand, it is challenging music, entertainment, arts, and because it is not directly challenging the US dollar for usefulness, in which DeFi is, I think, much more useful than the US dollar, but that's a different story. It has been able to get penetration in the circles of people that have up to hundreds of millions of subscribers in sports and music, soon in movies. So the amount of eyeballs and reach that these individuals and organizations have is a lot more significant than the amount of reach that the very fast growing DeFi companies have. But they're still, maybe they're unicorns now, but they're still startups. They don't have hundreds of millions of eyeballs to the things that they do. And I think it's important to, so I agree that DeFi NFTs will not stay this hot forever. Everything goes in waves. But if you think about NFTs purely in the collectible side, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The true value is in the digital ownership of non-fungible assets, and what unique experiences and access those NFTs might be able to provide. So considering that some NFT drops for someone like deadmau5 or 3LAU or musicians in the millions of dollars might sound like a lot, if you consider that creator having the digital, like being able to communicate with their collectors over the blockchain forever, it's possible that deadmau5 or 3LAU or any one of these creators could send the collectors infinite value over time. For example, a VIP pass to their concerts everywhere. So they're in New York, they send it a VIP pass, then Chicago, then Atlanta, then LA. And let's say you're in Sydney, Australia, and you're not able to go to any of these shows. Being able to sell that VIP pass to someone in New York, and then Chicago, and then LA, and then London, and then wherever, is potentially priceless. Plus including the fungible assets that you can send to your creators over time. So anyways, the collection is just the tip of the iceberg. It's really the digital access and the experiences that as a collector you can get access to.
Yeah, and I think it kind of comes back to this regarding like the DeFi boom and this NFT boom, this peer-to-peer, right? This peer-to-peer engagement community, which is kind of at the core of blockchain crypto. A lot of communities, a lot of engagement, a lot of growth, exchanging value rather quickly. And now we're exchanging kind of these moments in time, pieces of work, music, as you mentioned, you touched on a lot of uses. And so that's kind of, I think people relate to NFTs a little bit, or can relate to NFTs a little bit more, because like you said, it's a little bit less complicated. You don't have to kind of engage, with the complexities of yield farming and kind of these other things, and you're, exchanging and copying and pasting and seed phrases. So I think at a high level, NFTs, people just understand and get it. It's already kind of been proven with Top Shot. So real quick, Ethan, is this kind of a trend or a bubble?
Me personally believing this is just my personal belief. I think this is a trend, and it's gonna pick up steam along the way for the foreseeable future. And
Great.
That's my take.
Awesome. Let's go around. Zach, is this a trend or a bubble?
Short term, like a small bubble.
Yeah.
Long term, yeah, we got a ways to go. I think that's all been proven.
Great.
Like Michael said, it's just mostly digital collectibles now, but there are a vast number of other potential use cases for this. So yeah.
Michael, what's your thought? Trend or bubble?
We're just at the tip of the iceberg when you get multinational brands wanting to start to build in the metaverse and it has 0.001 penetration. To me, that sounds like it's a trend. When you have rock stars starting to want to build into the metaverse, I think the metaverse is the next $1 trillion market. I'm super bullish. And as far as celebrities that have participated in NFT drops, it's still 0.5% penetration. Every entertainer and their children will be doing NFTs in a couple of years. Yeah, we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
Nice.
Businesses that don't understand the true value of NFTs will disappear. But as far as market penetration, we're at the first, maybe the bottom of the first inning.
Nice. What about you, Bradley? Trend or bubble?
Oh, I think it's always everything, but I mean, these are huge markets that are being digitized already, and even today we're already in the billions, tens of billions, with a really small number of users and use cases. I also think that to keep in mind how big it can be, metaverse I think is a good thing to have as your like direction. Like let's say it's 10 years in the future or something like that. What percentage of your life and what percentage of your time spent is going to be in digital environments, and then what percentage of your assets are going to be in digital environments. And I think it's reasonable to bet that it's going to be some decent chunk. And so that's just assets upon assets all moving digital. And it already kind of happened. I mean, this is kind of a weird side effect of COVID, is that we had this like supercharging of moving people into the digital world all at once. And I think that just means that it's more likely now that we're going to see 50%, 25%, some large percentage of our lives in digital worlds in 10 years.
Nice. Let's talk about like product market fit really for NFTs in the digital world and the physical world. We've kind of touched on it a little bit here on how it's really penetrating certain industries. And one of them that really hasn't been disrupted is art. And I think that's the one that's kind of taking off. And I'll kind of let you kind of guide this, Ethan, on your end. Like, how are NFTs, and I'll let you pick either worlds, impacting or will impact, I guess, digital world versus physical world? Are you following certain things like the art or, the art space or music space or, real estate? There's a lot of opportunities here with NFTs. What are you following?
I don't have like a particular thing to follow, but I do have like, I guess, like general idea of what's going on. But I think NFT is definitely going to have a bigger impact on the physical world, in a sense that a lot of the thing that we know around us is going to be tokenized in the next few years. But I don't think, how do I put this? I think a tokenized economy is definitely the future, but there at the same time, there are also a lot of things that is hard to be tokenized. For example, real estate, right? I think the NFT of real estate is definitely a very interesting thought, but we believe that we still have a very long way ahead of us until it becomes a reality, because the social construct of property ownership has remained unchanged for so many centuries, and it is very difficult for people to be willing to open up to new ideas of a different way of owning a property. But we do think that socio-political and economic progress will change that in the future for the better. And yeah.
Nice. What about you, Zach? Kind of how do you see this product market fit for NFTs, I guess, in the digital or physical world? You know, what's the impact? And I'm sure you're seeing a lot of use cases on your end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I mentioned, we've been working since 2018 in NFTs, working in several different spaces. I think it's useful sort of initially to define the benefits of owning NFTs. First off, we saw that sort of as three separate types of benefits. First off, there was generally no purpose to owning it, and it was more so managing data. So it was like an organization or agency holding a token to protect and manage it. And that's like land registry, like was mentioned, healthcare management. And we never saw much adoption around that, unfortunately. Those are ingrained industries that it's tough to innovate for the most part. The next one was the control, or like enhanced accountability, where the token holder is responsible for the asset. That's supply chain, shipping, that type of thing, where whoever's holding that container, or that NFT owns that container, and there's sort of this global integrated view of what's happening, and they have responsibility for that. Now, there's been more adoption around that, things like the IBM Food Trust, that type of thing, but still very slow moving, nothing too crazy. But then there's been actual ownership, where you're holding value when you hold the NFT, and that's like digital art, fractional ownership of various things, and there's been way more adoption now and that's sort of the center of the discussion for this as well, because it adds too many benefits, and that's where the explosion is now happening. So now ordinary investors can diversify their investments, holding on to non-traditional assets, which used to be pretty much exclusive to certain, more wealthy groups, and it creates markets where there weren't any before. So it's taking off in this sort of holding value in actual ownership of NFTs area. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a little different question, Bradley. Do you think there's a place for NFTs and kind of like digital and physical art, or like kind of these two worlds where, it seems like everybody, especially at this conference, thinks everything is going to be tokenized, but is it going to be a hybrid? Do you think, it's one or the other, or can both have market share in terms of not everything needs to be tokenized compared to tokenizing everything?
Well, I must say I'm not quite as excited about physical items in the physical world being tokenized in general, just because it doesn't change the physical ownership. So even if I give you the token, somebody else could go and grab the thing out of my hand and then they have it. Or my real estate could be like physically taken from me. Or the government might not update the record. So there's just other factors for it. If you have a purely digital thing, then it's so much easier to move it around. So I see it as more like the physical world is the analog world. Like as we go digital with assets, those types of things might physical real estate as a store of value might be less important. Obviously we need some physical place to reside in, but again, if you imagine, I know I'm going super far out there now, but if you imagine 10 years down the road or 15 years down the road, you're spending most of your time in a digital world, you might care a little bit less about your physical property and a lot more about your digital property. So I think it's it's kind of like, because there's this flaw in the physical world, that it's the opportunity for the digital assets. They're so much more secure. They can be controlled by code. We can build all this cool stuff on top of it. Like the moment you get into the physical world, you lose a lot of that. So I see the perks. I've been like hearing about, various creators will be like, here's an NFT that has value, and like you also get like a video chat with me. Like that makes sense perks make sense that are in the physical world. But trying to take something that's in the physical world, you got to deal with like real estate. You need to have like a bribe function, right? For like most real estate transactions around the world, you need to have that in the code somewhere. Like it just doesn't. It's like there's reasons why it's not being done in a transparent way. So it's more the incentive problem with the physical world.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I've always thought that too, in terms of like tokenizing, physical assets when you don't actually hold, you don't actually own it, in kind of that psychological understanding. Michael, I have a different question for you. Like, we have a lot of viewers, right? And people are looking at NFTs and the market's, crypto, the market, and seeing all these like prices of things going on sale, or increasing in value. How do you like distinguish? How should one, and probably different ways to look at it, but like, should everybody look at an NFT as like, I want to buy this for $1 million, or should they look at it, as something more personal, more sentimental? And it's probably going to be obviously like in the middle, but I feel like everybody's trying to buy the NFT, like, for the pump, but ultimately it seems like an NFT is more in the moment right now, something that you cherish, like personally in some capacity.
Yeah, Bradley, super interesting perspective on people having a less strong desire to hold cool real estate in the physical world because we'll be spending more time in the digital world. It's a pretty interesting perspective. Also, the idea of merging the physical and digital world for things like art. We're actually doing the first, I believe, in North America, live NFT art gallery with a few famous artists, as well as a musician playing that has some songs with over 1 billion views, who are doing an NFT drop live at the event. It's called NFT Basel, NFTBAZL.com, happening in Miami, June 2nd. I think some of you guys might be going there, so that will be fun. With physical art pieces as well as digital art pieces, and the physical art pieces being on the blockchain represented as NFTs, which I think is interesting. Bradley, your opinion that a physical art piece can be taken and the digital art having more value. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm more excited about digital everything as well. But you could also be kidnapped and your digital wallet could be taken as well. So I think that's an interesting conversation. As far as the valuation of NFT assets, that's a pretty interesting question. I think similar to art, most art in general is pretty is like a pretty like immediate impulse purchase. But as tickets become represented on the blockchain as NFTs, you're going to need an NFT to enter a music festival, to enter a conference, to do anything. Your diplomas will be on the blockchain, represented as NFTs that you get through traditional university, but also the universities that will come natively in the metaverse, like in Conference Center. And I know the Blockchain Education Network is doing a lot there. But I think the way to value NFTs, similar to any business, you can consider the cash flows, the potential future cash flows of that business, with whatever multiple for the time. You could do the same valuation analysis for an NFT, and you could consider what expected future rate of return you think that the ownership of that NFT will provide, whether that's in the form of other non-fungible tokens that are sent to your tier of collectors, what fungible, so then in the case, in like the example that I used previously, that's for your most elite collectors as a creator, you could send them VIP passes to everything you do. If you're a label, you could send the high value creators NFT pass or VIP passes to everything the entire portfolio of creators does. You could also send them fungible tokens. Just thanks. I just launched my creator coin. Here's some creator coins. Plus you could you could provide access to your high valued creators to like very exclusive mastermind groups that provide potentially priceless deal flow. I don't know, but anyone that makes investments, if you can get access to the top investments, which everyone makes, most people make investments, or most people aspire to make investments, at least, even if it's $50. If you can get access to the highest value investments because of your ownership of an NFT, that could represent billions of dollars of future potential cash flow. But I think when considering the value, similar to anything that is mass market, or mass produced assets almost always depreciate in value because they are not scarce. There's no significant value in holding an H&M shirt, for example, or holding anything that is not scarce. But iconic NFTs, where they are ultra scarce and where the creators want to continue to incentivize their highest tier of collectors, I think that those NFTs are more likely to appreciate in value.
Makes sense. I think there's a lot of variables there in terms of like valuing these things, and yeah, it's just interesting to see these prices inflate pretty high in terms of like, obviously that's what the market value is maybe at this moment. Ethan, I want to talk about like the project that you guys are working on regarding Dodo NFT and or Dodo NFT Vault. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's kind of a cool, and I want to get everybody's thoughts here if they're not following that.
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, you briefly mentioned that the possible collision of NFTs and DeFi. And I think our Dodo NFT platform is the exact example of the collision between NFT and DeFi. So we basically combined our highly capital efficient PMM algorithm with the idea of NFT fractionalization, and to create a brand new solution to pricing and liquidity formation of the NFT marketplace. As opposed to the traditional AMM way of creating a market, you have the project team has to provide an immense amount of liquidity on both the ask side and bid side to create a market, and rely on the X, Y, and the K to discover the price. But with our sophisticated PMM algorithm, the team does not have to provide that much of capital. All they need to do is to set up their initial price and set up their price curve using our algorithm, and they're ready to go. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I want to get some thoughts here on kind of that product.
Yeah,
you might have
sure.
to break it down a little bit more.
Yeah,
but you
sure.
know, one of the big challenges, like during the ICO boom, was kind of the pump and dump, and people not holding on to tokens and not caring about it, speculating, as opposed to those really caring about, the project and the ecosystem. I think the NFT too, have poor retention and not to mention like liquidity, issues. So I think what you guys are working on is pretty interesting. Break down the fractionalization aspect of what you guys are doing. Like how does that work?
Okay, fractionalization. So basically, it's like selling a share of a company. So say you have a piece of really expensive artwork that you're going for $69 million, but not everybody is able to afford that piece of artwork. And if you wanted to sell that $69 million on the AMM market, you have to provide a $69 million worth of capital on the X side, which is not a lot of people able to do. So our fractionalization is basically we break down that $69 million of artwork into say like 1 million pieces. So then every share is going to be like $69, which is like a very affordable price for average buyers. So they're given this opportunity to be involved and in the price discovery process and to speculate. And at the same time, to create more volume, to create more liquidity for this market, and which is a win-win situation for both the project team and the speculator and the buyers in a way.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? Kind of interesting application there.
Fractionalization is awesome. I'm sure there's we've got a few projects doing some similar stuff for domains. Kind of makes sense. It's kind of close to this like DAO idea where you would have like a company, organization, whatever, being run by multiple different people. It's kind of moving in that direction, which seems like another potential really big trend. Like I think eventually you're going to have panels about like DAOs and why are DAOs the biggest trend, and why is New York Times talking about DAOs? Why does everyone have a DAO? I think we're going to be on that panel in like a year or something.
Ethan, one question regarding that. Can you sell off a fraction of your assets, or is it one asset? Can you have a pool of assets and offer shares of that pool? Or is it just, I have one piece, one item, whatever it is, I'm going to fractionalize that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? I didn't catch that.
Sorry, can you put up a pool of assets as well,
Mm-hmm.
or one asset to fractionalize? Can you fractionalize your basket of
art
images?
It can be like, it can be like a pool of asset and just put in the vault, and then you can fractionalize the whole vault. Yeah, what's in the vault and into like different tokens, fungible tokens. Yes.
Super cool, Ethan. So I figured the market would go in that direction, fractionalizing NFTs, creating DeFi pools backed by the value of NFTs. So definitely you're on trend. I'm keen to hear more about this and possibly securitize or fractionalize our metaverse REIT portfolio using your software, if that makes sense. And also, Bradley, I strongly agree. I don't know if it's going to be a year, maybe 6 months, maybe 18 months, but soon enough, DAOs will be the trend, and we'll be on a DAO panel together.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, any thoughts on kind of, what Dodo NFT Vault's doing in terms of fractionalizing, kind of democratizing, allowing more people, I guess, to come in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of similar to what I mentioned earlier, which I also Ethan brought up, was just sort of democratizing access to these assets that were typically only reserved for the ultra wealthy or just the wealthy in general. So, I mean, the benefits there are great. I'm excited to see where that goes then into other areas. I mean, I'm not a DeFi expert by any stretch of the imagination, but like sort of to my knowledge, DeFi is purely for financial return, and NFTs are for that, but also a deeper psychological reward sort of as well. So, I mean, there's the basic other stuff using NFTs as collateral for DeFi and other, but I like the idea of layering on top of NFTs or sort of social tokens, treating like a creator or something along those lines as themselves an NFT, and then creating social tokens to fund some sort of venture that they're doing, whether they're a musical artist, whether they're startup, whether they're a digital artist or just an influencer in general, doesn't really matter. And it's sort of a new way of them, financing their venture in a decentralized manner from people who actually care about what they're building. So you can figure out who their top fans are, make sure that everybody's interested in the same things. And it's this sort of it then becomes a sort of peer-to-peer marketing from a group of people pooling their resources together to achieve something together, which I think sort of adds an interesting layer on top of just DeFi and just NFTs. So felt like I'd bring that use case up. Thought it was interesting.
Ethan, how does it track the price? You said you set your own curve and then just kind of the algorithm tracks that. And kind of going back to my question on the value front, like how is it determined? Just by the creator?
Yes, the creator is able to customize this price curve prior to the launch of the project. And there's like several different parameters that they're able to customize to determine how the price go. And the whole point is that the creator has a bigger control on how the price go. And they're able to set the initial price, and then they're able to set the price curve. And as the liquidity enters the pools, and the price will just increase along the curve. And that's the basic idea. And this curve is powered by our PMM algorithm, which, yeah.
Nice. Are there any kind of, I don't know, risks associated with kind of getting involved with someone creating this democratizing their NFT assets?
In terms of risk, me and our team were still very closely monitoring this aspect, and this is a question that we're still eagerly working on, and one day we'll give you a more detailed answer to that.
People are totally going to lose money, and people are going to make money, and crypto goes on these like 4-year cycles historically. And so if we're towards the end of the cycle, then eventually it crashes. Happens all the time. Just hang in there. Don't be short-sighted. Always comes back.
Yeah, exactly. Zach, what are your thoughts to kind of maintain on this DeFi, this NFT DeFi? Like, you think these projects are going to allow you to collateralize it, exchange it, leverage it in some capacity, along with your other fungible tokens?
Well, to me, it seems like NFTs are sort of like a few years behind cryptocurrencies, and now Bitcoin is being used for collateral for larger banks and stuff like that. So it feels like NFTs in general are just a couple of years behind that. So this feels like something that is really taking off. It of course is much tougher to actually value properly because currencies, tokens fungible tokens are all, well, they're fungible and equal to each other, and you can determine what that market is, but it's much harder to figure out what the value of NFTs are. That said, absolutely going to be able to use this for collateral very soon, and it should be a very interesting ride.
People are already doing it.
Yeah.
People are already creating contracts and collateralizing NFTs.
Okay. Makes sense. Let's kind of go along the lines of more on the technical side in terms of interoperability with NFTs. What are your thoughts, Ethan, in terms of like gas fees, scaling issues, the challenges along those lines of I don't know, wider spread adoption? Like, or should we be worried about it? Are there other networks and platforms that we can tap into? What are your thoughts there, Ethan, in terms of interoperability and kind of taking care of some of these?
Problems? For sure. We're very closely exploring and realizing the cross-chain compatibility and deployment, which will definitely alleviate the challenge that brought by the high gas fee and the long processing time. And for example, we're already live on Binance Smart Chain and Eco Chain. And in terms of Ethereum, we're also looking at the implementation of a L2 solution to further address these issues. So we're definitely, as a team, we're working on it. and it is going to be addressed sooner or later.
What were your, and Zach, I'll get to you because you guys have some infrastructure too. So like you guys are super involved there. But Ethan, in terms of like choosing the chains that you chose, what went into those thoughts? So you're building on Ethereum already, right? And then you just also integrated BSC?
Yes, BSC and the Hiko chain.
And why BSC chain?
Well, like one of the reason is just like the competition on Ethereum is very huge, and we're just trying to find a different battlegrounds. And I think Binance Smart Chain is a really good target, and yeah, that's basically our thought process behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for many good reasons, you know, and everybody can find it online in terms of, you know, what they provide, the benefits of that chain. And it's just kind of interesting. What do you see, Zach, from an infrastructure standpoint in terms of, you know, being able to maybe transfer these NFTs from one chain to another, you know, whether that's bridge, whether that's standards, and you could probably take it from your perspective from Xooa.
So what we've seen basically is that interoperability is important, but it isn't the biggest issue facing the industry right now, and it's not the demand that we've seen from the market. For the most part, their demand is all around usability, scalability, and pricing. Basically, getting more people to jump on, getting more people to use NFTs and blockchain in general, basically revolves around treating it like it is other applications that they're used to dealing with. So like making an NFT marketplace like an Etsy or something along those lines, so that it's much easier to use. So interoperability, yeah, it isn't essential, I think, in the short term, but in the long term, this is something that is absolutely something that is going to need to be taken care of, because it is tough to sort of rely on businesses and other organizations to drive that value. Because if we view this primarily just on an economic value, you know, businesses are going to view this sort of in a short-term light with a goal of responding to the demand that they see then. If that makes sense.
Nice. And what about you, Ethan? Like in terms of interoperability, like you think that's important, critical for, you know, I think we've all been talking about kind of this NFT space, and like we've all been talking about how important, you know, certain things are going to be tokenized, but like, what about if it's just on that chain, even from maybe a gaming standpoint, right? Like interoperable either within kind of the Ethereum, you know, whatever chain you're built on, or even between multiple chains. What are your thoughts on interoperability? You think it's important for NFTs?
Yes. But hypothetically, we do believe that like more values could be unlocked if standards were to apply across different chains. But we do believe that applying standards across different chain is a extremely difficult challenge, just given how different networks are fundamentally different.
Yeah.
But we are happy to see that some networks there are applying similar or even the same standards. But yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's important. And you brought it up really with standards. I kind of had that in my notes, you know, like applying these standards generally across different chains so that people can not be stuck on one chain or have to choose or decide. And obviously, if there's concerns and issues in one network, you know, how does that hinder, right? Like some of the adoption, like some of the use cases, some people being confident to apply that. So yeah, no, I think you bring up some good points there, and I think those standards, you know, we'll see. And Zach, you mentioned that too. Like in the short term, not really. In the long term, yeah, like that's kind of pretty important. Michael, I was talking about interoperability, and we're gonna kind of wrap it up in a few minutes. But interoperability in terms of like being able to transfer your NFT, we're talking about so much value, right? In these NFT sectors and the way we use them. right now people are building on certain networks and platforms. Like, how important is that to maybe, and Ethan brought up like generalizing standards across chains so that you're not stuck to one or picking and choosing and whatnot and kind of siloed this out. What are your thoughts there in short term or long term? Like, is it important?
Same as there's bridges for fungible assets, there will be bridges for non-fungible assets. I'm a blockchain agnostic believer. There's not one chain to rule them all, in my opinion.
No, I mean, we're coming up here on an hour and stuff. I think it's been a great discussion. We've chatted about kind of why NFTs have blown up, and it's really not. Some people think they come out of nowhere, right? And obviously not. People have been working on this for quite some time. I didn't even know about the NFT kind of meetup that Bradley was talking about, or that conference, in the last couple of years. And that's how Bitcoin started about, 12 years, what is it, 11 years ago now, in terms of these small meetups in local cities. Before we end here, and I'm going to end on you, Ethan. Mike, I'll start with you. Give me about a minute. What was your journey into blockchain? Like, how did you end up in crypto blockchain? Give me about a minute.
Ended with Bitcoins in 20.
You're going to be I'm going to go last with you, Ethan.
I found out about Bitcoins in 2010. I thought it was a scam. I was in grade 11. Didn't take it seriously. Then in 2012, the Wired article came out. Bitcoin just gone to $30. That went into the technology. So I started to take it seriously, spent the next year diving down the rabbit hole, as we like to say, realized that this is the most exciting technology in the history of the world. I wanted to tell anyone who would listen to about it. So I started first the cryptocurrency and then later the FinTech Club at McGill University, where I was going to school. It's the Harvard of Canada, if you guys haven't heard of it. Rock on, McGill. And then started Bitcoin Canada to connect the national ecosystem, connected Canada to the American collegiate ecosystem, the College Crypto Network. And here we are.
Nice. Zach, what's your quick journey into blockchain crypto? How did you end up here?
So I was a Yale economics grad that graduated in 2017 and started working in seed stage venture capital. And I had a buddy who just wouldn't shut up about this thing called Ethereum. And I ignored it for about the first 13 or 14 times he brought it up separately. But then on like the 15th time, I was like, this guy's so crazy about this. There must be something to it. Then I started reading into it and I was immediately hooked. Like it was Ethereum. I learned Ethereum. And I remember I read the Bitcoin white paper, which was maybe 7 or 8 pages, if I remember properly. But I was just completely enamored by it. I caught the boom and bust cycle right before it happened. Had fun during that. Though I am largely non-technical, I think that winter I was on the treadmill or something and just had an aha moment where I realized I wanted to work in blockchain for the next decade, 20 years, however long. And that's then when I decided to drop everything and move to Denver and try to make it work in the blockchain industry. And then I ended up at Xooa and everything worked out great.
Nice. Ethan, what's your journey, man? How did you end up in blockchain crypto?
My journey is pretty similar to Zach's. We're in pretty much similar boat. We're both, I guess I'm also a non-technical guy, and we both have a buddy who is really enthusiastic about cryptocurrencies. And then it's just my buddy convinced me to give it a deeper look. And then I do my own research and realize it's the cryptocurrency, crypto in general has just has a huge untapped potentials. And then it's pretty much just the Wild West. There's a lot of opportunity for you, but it also comes with a lot of risk, and it just sounds very exciting. And I was invited on board Dodo and then to work with them as a member of the project. Very exciting stuff. I just been just learning every day, just get different experience every day. Just very exciting. I'm very, very happy with where I am right now, and I'm looking forward to stick with crypto in the future. Yeah.
Nice. That's kind of a great story. I love catching everybody's stories, everybody's rabbit hole stories on how they fell into it. And same here. I kind of came across Bitcoin in 2013 and went to grad school and heard about it. Ethereum, Ripple at the time, Coinbase. And then I fell into it. My buddy was randomly like, hey, we're doing this, that, and the other in crypto development and VC. I was like, all right, cool. Jumped in, and here we all are now, years later talking about it. Ethan, real quick, what are your thoughts in terms of like in Bitcoin? Like, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
I think Bitcoin, it's how do I put this? I think Bitcoin and Bitcoin network, Bitcoin is like the gold, and the Bitcoin network is like a treadmill that moves only the gold. It's very slow and very little utility to it. I think it's the following generations of blockchain technologies like Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. They're leading the future because they're like the wide road, and you can drive car on top of the road, and the car, they're the decentralized exchange apps, and those apps, they can carry a variety type of merchandise. So I think Bitcoin, I think it's done its job to like kind of kick off this whole crypto thing. And then of course, people are still holding it in very high regard, but I think moving onward, people should start looking at Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and decentralized exchanges, and even NFTs and so on. Just look to the future.
And then last question, Ethan, what kind of sets Dodo apart from the rest as far as an exchange goes, and like why should people kind of check out Dodo and start trading there?
I think, as I said before, Dodo features its original proactive market maker algorithm, which set the bar really low for people to enter the market making process to provide liquidity. And then it's just a very user friendly platform that allows that's inviting everybody to become part of this this movement, this industry. And we provide great value generating products to all our users. And we're ever growing thanks to our community support. We have an ever growing community, and things are just keep on growing. And I don't see any reason why you shouldn't check out Dodo.
Sounds good. I mean, you guys add value, get people moving in the space, user-friendly, different product solutions, which everybody's still experimenting with, learning, understanding. So appreciate kind of your efforts there and really putting this panel together and supporting kind of the Reimagine conference. Not only that, really, like I said at the beginning, just education, knowledge, sharing all of our perspectives and opinions, because we're still in this bubble, and we're still trying to understand it. We're still trying to express it and teach it to others. And we have a lot of, people checking this out now that are investors, novice experts, depending on, it doesn't even really matter. I think there's something in this conversation for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude here. We've been on for quite some time. I know it's about 4 a.m. on Michael's end. So we'll go ahead and end this discussion. Everybody tuning in, hopefully you had a good time with us. Talking to Ethan Zhang from Dodo. We talked to Bradley Camp from Unstoppable Domains, Zach Danker-Feldman from Head of Business Development at Xooa, and Michael Gord at XDB Foundation. So, you can catch this at the Reimagine YouTube channel. And we appreciate everybody kind of joining and participating here for one of our last interviews. So Michael, Zach, Ethan, thank you all for joining. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much,
everyone.
All right. Have a good one.
Out.